Stop what you're doing right now and look at your screen, because the financial war we have been warning you about has just escalated from a shadow conflict into open, kinetic warfare on the global stage, in a move that has sent shockwaves through diplomatic corridors and frozen the commodity trading desks of London and New York. The United States has executed a breathtaking geopolitical gambit, the arrest of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. The official charges will be a litany of familiar terms: drug trafficking, corruption, crimes against humanity. But do not be fooled by the legal theater. This is not about justice. This is a high-risk, high-reward asset seizure on a national scale, a direct strike at the heart of the burgeoning alliance between resource-rich pariah states and the rising Eastern powers seeking to dismantle the dollar system. And in the frantic, silent 6 hours that followed that arrest, as the world's media fixated on the handcuffs and the perp walk, a parallel operation of far greater magnitude was completed in the shadows. The complete and total evacuation of Venezuela's strategic silver reserve, amounting to 847 tons of physical metal, vanishing from the vaults of the Central Bank of Venezuela and the clandestine storage sites of the state mining conglomerate Minervan. This was not a heist in the dark of night. This was a precision exfiltration under the cover of geopolitical chaos and the initial forensic trail, a mosaic of intercepted signals intelligence, satellite imagery of unmarked cargo jets departing from remote airstrips in the Orinoco Belt, and the sudden inexplicable freezing of corresponding digital gold entries on the ledger of the Russian central bank points unequivocally to a joint Russo-Chinese black operation. The arrest was the detonation, the vanished silver is the shockwave, and it heralds one undeniable market-shattering reality. The price of gold and silver is now primed for a vertical ascent, not seen in modern history because the foundational illusion of sovereign asset safety and paper market control has just been publicly, violently shattered. The immediate calculus for gold and silver is not based on simple supply and demand, but on the terrifying new precedent of sovereign asset insecurity. For years, the East has whispered, and the West has dismissed, a haunting question. If your gold is stored in New York or London, is it truly yours? Venezuela's 2018 attempt to repatriate its gold from the Bank of England, which was blocked, provided a tentative, legalistic answer. Today's events provide a visceral, military-grade answer. The United States, by arresting a sitting head of state, has demonstrated that the ultimate sanction is physical custody. In response, Russia and China, by spiriting away nearly $1 billion worth of physical silver from under the nose of what they perceive as a belligerent, unpredictable hegemon, have demonstrated that the ultimate countermove is physical repossession. This single event is a live-fire demonstration to every nation on earth, from Iran to Saudi Arabia to Kazakhstan, that in a time of outright geopolitical conflict, your offshore financial assets are hostages, and your onshore physical commodities are prizes. The immediate knee-jerk reaction from every central bank and sovereign wealth fund, with even a hint of strategic divergence from Washington, will be a silent, urgent order. Repatriate. Now. They will seek to pull their gold home from the Federal Reserve's custody, from the Bank of England's vaults, from the Swiss clearing system. But for many, that process is slow, legalistic, and may now be politically impossible. The faster, more aggressive alternative will be to buy, and to buy massively in the open market, to accumulate new physical gold and silver to hold within their own borders as a strategic deterrent against such asset capture. This is not investment, this is strategic stockpiling for national survival. The buying will be opaque, channeled through state banks and proxy funds, and it will be relentless, creating a floor under the price that is fundamentally political, not economic. Simultaneously, the vanishing of 847 tons of silver, a volume equal to multiple months of global mine supply, exposes the paper market as fatal vulnerability. The COMEX and LBMA systems are built on a delicate faith that a tiny fraction of contracts will ever demand physical delivery. This faith is underpinned by the perceived availability of metal in registered vaults. The Venezuelan silver was not part of this system. It was shadow inventory, the kind of metal that could be mobilized in extremis to settle bilateral, off-book trades for oil, arms, or technology. Its disappearance proves that in a crisis, the deepest pools of physical metal will not flow toward the exchanges to bail out the paper shorts. They will be seized or secured by power blocks for their own strategic continuity. This realization will trigger a simultaneous panic on two fronts. First, among the bullion banks holding massive paper short positions, who now see the physical escape hatch slamming shut, forcing them to cover their bets in a market where the physical metal is being hoarded by nations, not speculators. Second, among the industrial users, particularly in the solar panel and electronics sectors, whose just-in-time supply chains depend on liquid silver markets. They will be forced to enter the market not as price-sensitive buyers, but as panic stockpilers, bidding against sovereign nations in a frenzy for a shrinking pool of deliverable metal. This convergence of sovereign and industrial desperation against a backdrop of evaporating liquidity will create a short squeeze of historical proportions, detaching the paper price from the physical reality and then forcing the paper price to chase the physical reality into the stratosphere. Furthermore, the arrest and the heist together formalize the bifurcation of the global monetary system. There is now a clear East and West block when it comes to commodity-backed finance. The West has shown its hand, coercive force, and legal seizure. The East has shown its counter, covert extraction and physical consolidation. The next logical step for the Russia-China axis is to announce subtly or overtly that the recovered Venezuelan assets and the thousands of tons of other commodity wealth they have accumulated through similar mechanisms in Africa and Central Asia will form part of the collateral pool for their new trade settlement platforms, whether a digital ruble yuan mechanism or a broader BRICS plus trading unit. This provides a tangible, hard asset backing that the dollar lacks, making their system inherently more attractive to commodity exporters tired of being sanctioned. For gold and silver, this means the emergence of a vast, new, non-transparent demand sink that operates entirely outside the Western pricing paradigm. The price on the COMEX will become increasingly irrelevant, a ghost of a dying system, while the real price will be set in physical auctions between sovereigns in Shanghai, Dubai, and Moscow. This dual pricing reality is the final stage before a full reset. Investors sensing this will flood into the only vehicles that offer direct exposure to the physical metal, PSLV, allocated accounts, and physical bars and coins, abandoning paper ETFs like SLV that are now seen as potential traps within the Western system. This retail and institutional stampede into physical channels will further drain the vaults that back the paper system, accelerating the crisis. Therefore, the arrest of Maduro and the consequent silver heist are not merely dramatic news headlines, they are the catalyst that forces the world to choose sides in the monetary endgame. The immediate result will be a violent repricing of risk, where gold and silver cease to be commodities and reassert their ancient role as the ultimate arbiters of trust and power. The dollar, whose strength was already predicated on fragile confidence, now faces a direct challenge backed by the aggressive physical reclamation of real wealth. In this environment, the price of gold is not going to merely go high. It is going to seek a level that reflects the full measure of systemic distrust and the outright weaponization of global finance. It will price in the premium for sovereign safety, the cost of supply chain insurgency, and the discount on the future viability of fiat promises. Silver, with its dual role as a monetary metal and the irreplaceable sinew of industry, will amplify this move. The 847 tons that vanished in 6 hours are more than just metal. They are a signal flare. They announce that the era of pretending is over. The war for resources is hot. And in this war, the only safe asset is the one you can hold in your hand, far from the reach of any government's handcuffs or any rival's cargo jets. The run has begun. The question is no longer if the prices will explode, but whether you will have any physical metal before the gates to the vaults for the average person are permanently closed.